Some mothers-in-law give unwanted advice. The ones in this video called the sheriff invoice their own children and burn dish towels in the backyard as a cleansing ritual. All complaints aimed at a son's wife, all delivered with total confidence that they were the reasonable one in the room. Every single story left a family arguing about who was actually wrong. 1. The fake flowers were already in her trunk when she pulled up to the wedding, which tells you this was planned. Partway through the reception, the bride noticed the arrangements looking off. His mother had started slipping plastic stems in among the real ones, quietly, like she was correcting somebody's homework. The root problem, as she explained to anybody who slowed down long enough, was the bouquet. Heavy on roses, almost no lilies, and in her personal flower science that mix means the couple will never manage to have children. So she worked the room with it. Table by table, guests were informed that the marriage was already finished, sunk by a florist. Nothing ruins a first dance like your aunt hearing your future kids have been canceled. 2. 40%. That is the drop Martha reported every single time she pulled up and saw that car sitting in the driveway. The car was blue. Just blue, the color half the sedans in this country come in. But Martha had done some thinking and decided that blue is what sadness looks like. So buying it was a message aimed at her, a quiet instruction to feel low. She brought this to her son as a real concern. Her fix was for 2 working adults to eat the trade-in loss and come back with something bright orange. Orange is the happy color, she said, and picking it would show a little respect for the woman who raised him. A wife bought a normal sedan and got handed a mood report with a percentage attached. 3. Her limit was 2 pillows, and she was ready to enforce it in a house that was not hers. Her position, said out loud to her hosts, was that a pile of cushions on a bed tells you everything about the person who stacked it. Messy bed, messy head, no discipline anywhere in the building. She also insisted the decorative ones were rigged against her, placed there to leave her with a neck she could not turn for a week. So she got to work. Every extra pillow went out to the garage, 1 armful at a time. In their place, she built her own bedding out of bricks with bath towels wrapped around them, because bricks, in her opinion, hold a spine properly. Her hosts found the bricks when they went in to change the sheets. 4. Her argument, made out loud, was that covering roughly 20% of the wedding bill bought her at least 2 days of the honeymoon. Not a room at the resort, not a seat on the plane, cargo space. The couple were loading up the SUV for the airport when they spotted her down behind the suitcases, knees up, holding a cooler. Inside that cooler were egg salad sandwiches from her own kitchen, because she had decided resort food could not be trusted, and she was not taking chances. She had thought through every part of this except the part where somebody opens the back of their own vehicle before a long drive. So the honeymoon started with a grown woman being walked out of a trunk and driven home. 5. The venue had a number, and that number was full. Chart printed, deposits gone, 3 days on the clock. Then Brenda called with a request. 40 more seats for her bridge club. Not family, not the couple's friends. The ladies she plays cards with. The answer was no, because at that point, no is the only answer available, and that is when Brenda revealed her backup plan. She would show up in a black veil and take the very last row, silent, dressed like she had come straight from a burial, so every guest in the room could see how wounded she was. Mourning clothes at her own son's wedding to punish 2 people for respecting a fire code. In her head, her reputation at the card table outweighed the venue, the budget, and the day itself. 6. The demand was the garage. Every visit, the whole time she was in the house, the dog was to be shut out there. Beatrice brought this to her son with full formality, like she was filing paperwork, and the defendant was a golden retriever. Charge 1. At dinner, the dog looked at her like it considered itself the better of the 2. Not begging, not eyeing the ham, looking down on her. Charge 2. It had taken her preferred chair on purpose, which she read as a move to establish rank over her in her own son's dining room. Then she added a note about training. The animal, she said, ought to learn to get up on its feet when she walks into a room, the way a person would. 7. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes. That is the menu one mother of the groom marched over and demanded from the wedding planner with 2 hours left before the ceremony. The problem was the taco bar. Too foreign for her half of the guest list, she said, and it needed to go. She had a second complaint stacked under the first. Letting guests fill their own plates is what a household does when nobody wants to cook, and a build-your-own dinner, in her view, is a small betrayal of the country itself. So with the trays loaded and the caterer parked out back, she asked a professional to scrap everything and start over on a weeknight dinner. A woman looked at warm tortillas, a bowl of cilantro, and some shredded chicken and saw a threat to the American way of life. 8. The late fee is what makes this one perfect. It started when the couple opened an email that turned out to be a real PayPal invoice. $50, itemized from his mother. The billed service was a phone call, the one where she talked them through getting a red wine stain out of a rug. Her reasoning was that decades of running a household turn her advice into professional work, and professional work gets charged for. Recipes, baby questions, cleaning tips, everything now carried a rate. Would you have paid that? They did not. They assumed somebody was running a bit and left it sitting there unanswered. So she went back into the account and added a penalty for late payment. 9. Somebody made a special trip to a gas station to buy worse toilet paper for another adult's bathroom. That is the level we are working at here. The 3-ply in her son's house had been eating at her for a while, because in her accounting, it was money leaking out of his savings one soft square at a time. Her logic did go somewhere. Comfortable paper makes a man linger in there. A man who lingers is a man getting too settled, and a man that's settled is not clawing his way up at work. So she bought a roll of the thin stuff they screw to the wall at truck stops, walked into their bathroom while both of them were out earning, and made the swap. Nobody does that to save money. She was enjoying herself. 10. 3 in the morning, and the wall starts thumping. That was Tuesday at their house, week after week. They would get up, follow the noise, and find her out in the living room with an infomercial going, calmly folding their underwear into stacks while her load finished spinning. She had a key. It was given to her for actual emergencies, the burst pipe, call an ambulance kind. She had decided laundry counted. Why not run it at her own place? Because the water in her neighborhood, she explained, is too loud for ears as sensitive as hers. When they finally asked for the key back, she informed them that taking a key from a woman her age is elder abuse, and mentioned that a will can always be rewritten. 11. One year, she wrapped up a talking bathroom scale, the kind that says the number out loud in a robot voice, so a room full of relatives gets the update at the same moment you do. Next to it in the pile, a box of weight loss tea. Both presents were for her son's wife, both handed over in front of everybody. And this was not a one-off. For years, every holiday, the gift was some version of a gym membership, tagged and bowed and given with a smile. When somebody finally asked what she thought she was doing, she said she was only worried about the dining room chairs and whether they would survive another Christmas. What do you even say back to that, in your own living room, with the wrapping paper still on the floor? 12. They came home from vacation to gravel. Where the rose garden used to be, there was now a flat bed of stones with a small flock of plastic pink flamingos standing around in it. His mother had gone at that yard while the house sat empty and pulled every plant out by the roots. Months of his wife's work gone in an afternoon, including the bushes that had actually taken ribbons. Her reason, once she got around to offering one, was that roses are too romantic, and too much romance around the house was going to pull her son's mind off his job at the insurance agency. She expected thanks, by the way. Modern, low maintenance, no watering. For the record, no man in the history of American insurance has ever lost a sale because of a rose bush. 13. There was jerky hidden in the stroller, tucked down by the baby's feet so he would have something to chew on during the day, and the baby was 3 months old. That was the backup plan. The main event, which the baby's mother walked in on, was her mother-in-law holding a piece of solid steak up to an infant's mouth. Milk, in this woman's opinion, is what you feed a baby with no drive. Real meat builds a real backbone. Following the pediatrician's instructions was simply proof that the parents had gone soft and needed correcting. So a kid who could not lift his own head yet spent his mornings rolling around town with dried beef stashed by his ankles, courtesy of a woman who treats medicine as a suggestion. 14. Nobody's crystal has ever been endangered by a laugh, but try telling her that. She put in an official complaint with the family, and the subject was the sound her daughter-in-law makes when something is funny on board game night. Not the volume, the frequency. She claimed it hit a note that set every piece in her decorative glass collection humming, and she called that dangerous. Then she pulled her home insurance into the argument, like an adjuster was standing by to assess the damage. Her requested solution was that the entire family drop to low voices from then on, permanently for the sake of her living room. A woman laughed at a board game with her in-laws and got treated like a risk to the building. 15. The end goal here was woodworking, something with a saw in it. Her son had gotten into baking sourdough, and to his mother that was not a hobby, it was evidence, proof that his wife was quietly filing the man down. She took the whole case to her bridge club and laid it out for the ladies over cards. A grown man belongs out in a field with a wrench and a broken tractor, she told them, not standing at a counter watching a jar of bubbling goo like it is a patient in recovery. Then came her rescue operation. His kitchen scale vanished. His flour got swapped out for sand, on the theory that enough ruined loaves would push him towards something with more grit in it. 16. She built a file. Photographs of garden gnomes, shot from several different angles, collected as proof that ceramic lawn ornaments were running an operation against her personally. All of it went to her son in writing, not a phone call, not a remark over dinner, an actual written grievance about his wife's gnomes. Her claim was that they looked at her with judgment on their little painted faces, and that the tilt of those pointed hats sent one specific message. She was not wanted in that driveway. She wanted them destroyed, not moved around back, not stuck in a shed, smashed that day while she watched. And she brought the photographs along because to her, this was a case that needed proving. 17. What broke Linda was the cat. Her portrait had landed in the bottom left corner of the family photo wall, and right beside it, in a matching frame, was a picture of the family cat. The center of the wall went to somebody else. To Linda, that was not a decorating decision. It was a deliberate operation to write her out of the family, and she said so to anyone who stood still. She also decided nobody else could be trusted to fix it. So she came to Thanksgiving dinner carrying a gold-plated frame she had bought for herself and a hammer in her bag, ready to rehang her own face somewhere between the turkey and the pie. Nobody at that table knew whether to pass the potatoes or take the hammer off her. 18. Reprint 500 Christmas cards with her face dropped in over the dog's head. That was the demand, and she offered it as a compromise. It started when she opened the family card and found the golden retriever in a Santa hat while she, a grown woman and a grandmother, appeared bareheaded. Ranking a dog above her at Christmas was, in her reading, proof that the modern world has come loose from its morals. So she gave the couple a choice: 500 reprints, or she was out of the holiday entirely. Not sulking quietly through dinner. Out. No Christmas. All because an animal with no concept of December got a hat and she did not. 19. Swamp creatures. That was one of the 2 official concerns she listed when she called the city on her own family over the length of their grass. Concern 1 was property values, which at least sounds like something a real person says. Concern too was that the lawn had grown long enough to draw swamp creatures into the neighborhood, a claim she never expanded on, about animals that do not live in that county. The grass was maybe 2 inches over. Then came the evidence phase. She walked out to the driveway with a wooden ruler, laid it alongside individual blades of grass, photographed them one at a time, and mailed the packet to the local news as documentation that the household was falling apart. 20. Joyce wanted a 5-second warning before the toast came up, out loud, to 2 adults in their own kitchen. She had filed a complaint about their toaster on the grounds that it fired the bread out with more force than necessary and gave her a fright every morning. And she did not think that was random. She believed the timing was aimed at her, set up to catch her mid-sip and put her tea straight into the rug. So she offered 2 acceptable outcomes. Either they buy a machine that works silently, or somebody stands there and counts her down before the bread is ready. There are people out there getting startled by household appliances, and this one decided the appliance started it. 21. Evelyn's demand was a kennel. Not for a dog, there wasn't one. For the cat, boarded and out of the house for the length of every visit she made. The grievance she filed said the cat was ignoring her on purpose to make her feel unwelcome, and her evidence was that it got up and left whenever she walked into a room. Normal cat behavior, obviously. Evelyn didn't read it that way. She read it as coordination, a joint operation between her daughter-in-law and the animal to undermine her authority as head of the family. She believed a cat had been recruited against her. Recruited, briefed, and doing an excellent job. 22. For a solid month, that house smelled like the back of a pizza place. The new mom kept catching her mother-in-law slipping into the nursery, and what she was doing in there was rubbing raw garlic into the baby's feet. Her source on this was a psychic who had told her the infant's aura was weak and needed protection from bad luck. Asked to knock it off, she flat out refused, because in her ranking, a garlic treatment beats anything a doctor has to offer. So there is a baby out there who spent his first months smelling like a deli counter on the word of a woman who reads energy for a living, while his mother explained the smell to every single person who leaned over the crib. 23. Her system was alphabetical, by fabric type. That is how she rehung somebody else's laundry, and by somebody else, I mean her son's wife, whose clothesline got reorganized top to bottom while both of them were at work. This came after a formal complaint in which she claimed the laundry was an insult to the entire street. Socks pinned up next to pillowcases, in her assessment, is what you see at a house where nothing is under control, and she was sure the neighbors were quietly downgrading the whole block over it. Nobody had said a word, for the record. No neighbor complained, no neighbor noticed. She spent an afternoon sorting cotton from linen in another woman's backyard for an audience that did not exist. 24. A tuxedo. Tailored, real money, cut to fit a golden retriever. That was her first purchase. The occasion she had invented was a wedding, scheduled for the exact hour her son was getting married a few miles away. She had formal invitations printed and mailed to the couple's entire guest list, announcing that her retriever would be marrying a poodle from the neighborhood that same afternoon. So the guests received 2 invitations for one date and had to pick. Then, when her son declined to walk out of his own reception to go watch 2 dogs eat cake, she threw the kind of tantrum relatives still bring up years later. She booked a rival event on his wedding day and got her feelings hurt when he skipped it. 25. No dessert until your balance is cleared. That was the standing rule at Sunday dinner. Her own children, grown adults with jobs, were being charged $10 to park in her driveway every time they came over to eat. Her justification was structural. All that combined car weight was making the driveway settle faster, and she needed a repair fund ready for the day it cracked. Then she took it a step further and installed a small ticket machine at the entrance, so the whole thing would be official. Anybody carrying an unpaid balance sat there while everyone else got pie. She turned her own driveway into a paid lot and her children into paying customers. 26. Emily's mother-in-law showed up for the weekend with a suitcase, a cardigan, and a professional-grade black light. She packed that thing at home on purpose, knowing exactly what she planned to do with it. On Saturday, she spent 3 straight hours in the guest bathroom, wearing yellow-tinted safety goggles, running the light along the baseboards and up the shower tiles, hunting for dust and traces of bacteria. Emily stood out in the hallway listening to it happen. When she finally asked what was going on in there, the answer was that this was a health inspection, and somebody had to confirm the house was up to the standard this woman is used to. That is how Emily spent her Saturday, listening to a houseguest examine her grout for signs of moral failure. 27. The suggested replacement hobby was decorative spoons. Something to collect that involves no words at all. That came at the tail end of a conversation this woman had with her son about his wife's bookshelves, which she considered a live threat to the marriage. Too much curiosity under one roof, she explained. She even had a cutoff. A wife who gets through more than 1 book a month starts examining her husband's decisions and asking questions, and there is no walking that back. Then she acted on her own diagnosis. Half the library went into boxes and off to a thrift store, and when somebody asked what she was doing, she said the shelves needed clearing anyway. She had more photographs of herself that needed a home. 28. She kept a digital kitchen scale in her purse, and she took it out at restaurants. Not to check a recipe, to weigh her daughter-in-law's dinner. She would sit patiently until the plates arrived, then insist on putting the pasta on the scale right there at the table so she could prove the wife had been served more food than her son. The stated purpose was caloric balance in the household, so the two of them would age at the same rate, which is not how a single part of that works. So picture a nice Italian place, candles lit, a waiter hovering with the pepper grinder, and a woman weighing your ziti while your husband studies the tablecloth. Nobody at that table was hungry after that, and nobody mentioned dessert. 29. The neighbors got a show that afternoon. A grown woman out on a front porch with a spray bottle of holy water, soaking a doormat and the boards around it, while nobody watching had the first idea what was happening. Here is what set it off. Her son had bought a new welcome mat with a cartoon bat printed on it. The friendly kind with big eyes. The kind you grab in October and never think about again. Sandra looked at it and saw an open door to the occult. She took a protest straight to her son, told him the mat was actively pulling vampires toward the neighborhood, and demanded it be taken out back and burned that same day. The holy water was already in her bag, which tells you she came expecting an argument. 30. 2 deputies rolled out on a possible hostage call and found a couple on the couch halfway through a movie. The call had come from Janet, the husband's mother, who had texted her son and received no reply for 6 entire minutes. Her theory, which some dispatcher had to type into a computer, was that his wife had him held in the basement. Her supporting evidence was that the wife had recently started growing vegetables in the backyard, and Janet found that suspicious. Once everybody was standing there in the living room, Janet had notes. The response time was too slow for her liking, and she wanted it on record that a woman who grows her own food is one short step away from something extreme. 31. This woman's allergy ran on a schedule, and the schedule was suspicious. It never once bothered her while she sat through 2 hours of dinner in that kitchen. It arrived the second somebody handed her a dish towel and nodded at the sink. The soap was the problem, she said. It smells like lemon, the sharp fake kind, and she filed a real complaint about it. Her claim was that the scent had switched on an allergy nobody knew she had, herself included. Then came her terms. The household was to buy an organic soap with no fragrance in it at all, the kind made from goat milk left to ferment, $40 a bottle, on their card. She also showed up to the next family dinner in a hazmat mask she had bought for the occasion, and she kept it strapped on in the living room while everybody else ate. 32. The towels were the wrong shade of green. That is the entire complaint, and Helen filed it in full. Her son's wife had picked up a set of dish towels somewhere, no thought behind it, the way anybody buys dish towels. Helen looked at that color and took it as a strike against her own bloodline. Her people, going back generations, treated that shade as something close to sacred, and now it was being used to mop coffee off a counter. Nobody in that family had heard one word about this rule before that afternoon. She arrived with plain white ones as a replacement. The green set was to be carried out to the backyard and set on fire, with the family standing there so the house could be cleared of whatever those rags had brought into it. She was not speaking in metaphor. She wanted flames, and she wanted witnesses. 33. The demand was an internet curfew. Every night at 6, router off, the whole house cut from the network, and the ones who benefited were supposed to be her houseplants. Her ferns had been dying, and she had worked out the cause. The signal coming off her son's router was getting into them. Worse, in her telling, the plants had taken it personally and were now giving up on purpose to punish everybody in the building. They needed dark, quiet evenings to recover. Her son heard the whole theory out and told her no. That did not end it. She got hold of the router and mummified it in aluminum foil, wrap after wrap, until no heat could get out of the box. It cooked itself, sagged, and welded to the shelf underneath. There is a burn mark on that bookcase now. The ferns died anyway. 34. A free velvet couch went out the door on one of those local giveaway pages that week, and the two people who owned it had no idea it was for sale. His mother posted the listing. She had looked at that couch, decided the color was too bold for a home anybody would take seriously, and offered it to whoever showed up first with a truck. Somebody did. The couple got back to her room holding a rug, a lamp, and a large empty rectangle. Ask her about it, and she talks about energy. There was bad energy sitting in that couch. She cleared it out, and now the two of them are free to put money aside for the beige set she has already chosen on their behalf. She is waiting on a thank you. 35. Some barber took an order that afternoon from a woman who had no right to place it. The customer was a toddler, and the instruction was clippers to the scalp, the cut you get on your first morning in the army. That was Sarah's son. He had walked out of the house with a head of long curls, and neither parent knew a haircut was on the schedule. His grandmother had been sitting on an opinion for a while, which is that a boy with hair like that is doing something close to a sin, and she never raised it once with the two people raising him. So she waited for a workday. She loaded him into the car, told the barber exactly how short to go, and had him home before anybody clocked out. Hair takes months to come back. You cannot fix that by dinner. So does a family swallow this and move on, or is she finished being trusted with that kid? 36. The church ladies got briefed on a set of bedroom curtains before anybody else did. That was where she took it first. Her position was that her son's wife had hung heavy dark drapes in their bedroom, and that those drapes were quietly wrecking the man's career. No sun on his face in the morning means no fire in him. No fire means he stays a forgettable guy filing other people's tax returns until the day he retires. She did not leave it with the ladies either. She let herself into that house while the two of them were off at the gym, pulled the drapes down, and hung neon yellow shears in their place, the kind that turn a bedroom the color of a highlighter. Her son came home to a glowing room and a mother who believed she had just rescued his future. 37. That little boy is his father all over again. Same face, same ears, same way of standing, the kind of resemblance strangers bring up in the checkout line. His grandmother looked at him and decided the man who delivers their mail had something to do with it. So she took the child in for a DNA test. No permission, no phone call, neither parent told a thing, just a swab in a toddler's mouth and an envelope off to a lab. The paperwork came back and confirmed what any pair of working eyes could have handled for free. She read it and announced that the lab could not be trusted. There were bigger forces at work, people with reasons to bury the truth, and her theory walked away from the science without a scratch. No apology either. She was not wrong. The world was simply in on it. 38. Picture a corporate lobby and a woman sitting in it with a photo album on her knees, full of ribbons and medals her son won at swim meets when he was 9. She was not an applicant. She was not invited. Her son had a serious interview upstairs, and she had come along to speak for his character, which nobody at that company had asked anyone to do. When they called him back, she stood up and made a run at the boardroom door with him. Her plan in that room was to let a table of executives know that her boy feels things deeply and performs much better when somebody makes sure he eats between meetings. He was 34 years old. Married, mortgage, career, taxes filed on time. He did not get the offer, and she has settled on the explanation that the company holds something against families. 39. She wanted it on paper. A signed apology read out loud, with every relative in the room listening, all of it over how the holiday ham got cut. Her son's wife had carved the slices thick, and in this woman's reading, a thick slice tells you a household has stopped caring about anything at all. Then she took it further. Cutting meat that way, she said, was disrespect aimed at the family members who came before them. So she brought it to her son as an official matter and waited on her apology. Nobody wrote a word. Nobody would sit still for the lecture either, and she delivered one anyway. 3 hours of angles and thickness, and how a slice is supposed to sit on a plate. Then she stood up in the middle of her own argument and walked out of the house, wounded that a room full of grown adults would not take her seriously about ham. 40. She had the knife in her hand before the bride did. Standing at her own son's wedding cake, smiling for the room, ready to make the first cut, dressed in white lace that ran all the way down to her shoes. Somebody finally said the obvious thing out loud, and she had an answer ready. The dress was not white. The color, she explained, was Himalayan salt crystal, a completely separate thing in her mind, delivered with a straight face to a crowd of people whose eyes worked fine. That was not her only project that day either. She spent the reception drifting into every photograph taken, always at the groom's shoulder, always with her chin up and the camera in her sights. So how does that end at your wedding? Does somebody walk her out to her car? Or does she stay in the album forever as proof of what she tried? A DNA test on a toddler, a tracker sewn into a jacket, a bill for holiday snacks. Every story here had a husband standing in the middle, saying nothing. So tell me straight, how many of these are actually the mother-in-law's fault, and how many are on the man who let her keep doing it? Fight it out in the comments. Like the video and subscribe if this hit close to home.